Hey everyone, and welcome to my first Patreon exclusive tutorial. I didn't get any requests or queries as to a specific, tutorial yet, but today I want to just go into keyframing because I think it's something that is pretty cool, and I've done it a lot throughout my YouTube career, so whatever content query you want to see next, put it in my comments below on the Patreon page, and I'll get to it on the next episode. Okay, so keyframing is pretty much just animation. It's, moving one frame to the next, and you can, let's say like a flip book, or just animation in general. It's just frame by frame. The way cartoons work, they'll get drawn on a frame, they'll move them a bit, or they'll redraw it again, and blah blah blah, frame by frame. That's keyframing. And today I want to show you keyframing for face tracking, which is what I used to do, or sometimes still do. I'll do a little example. Here is Ron pogging. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut his head off, so it's just his head. And I'm going to track it over just Bowser, just a little example of what you can do with it. Again, with animation, it's frame by frame, as I said, but it can be quite strenuous and slow. But yeah, so the first thing I do before I open any project, this is a quick tip. What I usually do out of habit now is I right-click whatever the video is. This is in Vegas. I apologize. I'm not sure how you would do this in other software, but so what I usually do is I right-click the whatever the video is here. I'll right-click that, press Properties, and then I'll uncheck this, and then I'll check this. So again, you uncheck that, and you press this. What this does is the aspect ratio of the video. I'll show you better. It'll be better shown here. So you can see here there's like little bars to the side. That's because this image isn't 1920 by 1080. It'll be like probably like 1,000 by 1,000 or something like that. But because of that, it will come up like this. So there'll be bars on the side. But if you right-click Properties and uncheck the Maintain Aspect Ratio, what that'll do is it will force it to the aspect ratio of your display here, which I'm pretty sure can be changed through here, blah blah blah. I'll change it. You don't have to worry about that yet. But just make sure that your video is 1920 by 1080. That's quick tip. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to crop out this man's head, and I'm going to put it on this Bowser, and then I'm going to make it move with the Bowser. So what I'll do first is I'll get like a little clip of just him moving. So we'll get preferably just like a left or right. So yeah, this little bit here. So what I've done there is I pressed S, which is just a quick hotkey for like splitting or cutting. And I'll just delete the ones I don't want. Drag that to the beginning, and then we have this little sequence here of him turning and then stomping his foot. And then I'll just do that. So what we're going to do is I'll just hide this layer for now. Again, quick tip: press Z, and it will hide what that layer is, a specific layer. Now what I'm going to do is make sure that this is all, blah, 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 all checked. I don't know what this does. I'm pretty sure this is like a resample setting, or obviously it is, but just press disable resample, you'll get like the highest quality you can, that I'm aware of. Again, this is what I do, this is how you get the look of my videos, I guess. So, keyframing, if you press this little button here, if you hover over your whatever your editing software is, there'll be whatever your keyframing window is. In Vegas, it's in here. This little button here, Event Pan and Crop. So you press that, and I'll open up this window, and it will just show the video in here, frame by frame. So you can like tap left and right. You can again frame by frame. You can zoom in and out on it, so you can see how many individual frames there are. So this is a frame. That's a frame. That's a frame. Etc. etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Ron back real quick. I'm going to press Z again on here just so there's no fuckery. I'm going to press this button again, before checking, yep, disable resample. Then what I'm going to do is, before I start anything in here, this is another thing you need to do to make sure your aspect ratios are correct. So right now, this is being forced to the 1920 1080, which is fine. But if you want it, because of that, it's going to be like squashed. Obviously, the still it's meant to be a square, so this way it's going to be squashed. So to stop that and to bring it back to the size that it should be, sorry, my cat just fucking walked into my room. Just kicked my door in. Cheers. So you right click anywhere on here, and you press match output aspect, and what that does, it will basically just take it back to its original like size. So now if I drag it out again, this is I'm doing things without thinking. So makes it bigger, makes it smaller. You can rotate it, you can flip it, you can do all kinds of things in here. I'll go into it when we start keyframing. So yeah, because of that, we've got it back to its original size. It's black in the background because this is hidden, but if you were to obviously play them, you'd see, yeah, there's audio, the visuals are behind it. So I'm going to show you how I would go about tracking a face. So keyframing, you have a position, you have a mask. We'll worry about the mask later. So position, say the first frame, I'm going to put it on the left here. I'm just going to drag it. I'm holding down shift as well. And it just makes it so it just snaps to these little dots. Because if I just like did it freely, it would do like that. But if I hold shift, it'll snap. So I can't ever like, if I'm like framing, it doesn't like go up accidentally. So I'm going to drag this all the way to the left. And then I'm going to grab this last frame here. I'm going to double click it. And what this has done is I am now on this frame, which means on the timeline I am here. I'm on this end of the little clip of this picture. So this picture is now technically an animated sequence. It's not going to do anything because these frames are the same. But what I can do is if I press this frame here, so the first frame is here, and go to the second frame. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to drag it to the right. And now what you'll see, if I press play on this video, it's going to move from right to left. Now the reason it goes right to left and not left to right is it's basically, in my head this is kind of flipped. So if you drag something to the left, it will be on the right. So you got some trigonometry going on. So you got the picture, you got this on the left. Imagine there's some arrows, like some lines connecting it to it, and it's going like that kind of thing. It's hard to explain for me because I'm an idiot, but just know that when you start something on the left side, it's going to be on the right, and vice versa. You can always check it by just going back onto the original video. So you can drag this wherever you want, and you can just like click through, and you can see that this is moving in time. You can also see it on here, how it's moving, how this is moving across. And that's basically keyframing. That's how you move from one point to the next via a frame. So if I wanted to just change this up a bit, I can put a frame in here, and I could, let's just make it bigger. So I'm going to drag this, I'm going to make this bigger. The preview is going to be a bit fucky, because it depends on where, this is like the preview, so whatever this is, it's going to be previewing what I'm doing here. So because I've made this frame bigger, what you'll see is that this is getting smaller, but that actually means it's zooming in. So this is like the camera lens, and now it's going to go back out again. So now what this will do is it should like pan in and then go back out again. So it will do this. And that's pretty much the basics and fundamentals of keyframing. A lot of it is time and patience, and you can probably tell how strenuous this can get. But with patience, you can make a lot of stuff. Now I'm going to show you something that's pretty important with this, is masking. Now you can mask images in anything. You don't have to do it in Vegas. I usually go on Photoshop, and I'll export a PNG of the file. And what PNG files are, they're basically transparent images. So I've quickly grabbed a PNG, which is Kermit the Frog here. I can tell it's PNG as well because it has these little grey boxes, and Images online, sometimes they'll say they're transparent, they'll have these boxes, and they're not. So just make sure when you download pictures that they're actually transparent. Let me quickly do what I usually do. Blah, blah, blah. I do this out of habit, just so there's no, like, render issues or anything of the sorts. Basically, what I'm going to do to this is I'm going to get rid of all of the background, all of this, so it's like this. So there's no, if I were to have a clip over here, I'll just make another video track quickly, get rid of that. You'll see that this Kermit is transparent on the screen. So there's no, like, black, well, yeah, there's no background or anything. There's no black either around it, so it's just a completely transparent image. You can do this in Photoshop. I usually do, but I'll show you how to do it in Vegas, just so you know. So what we do is we go back onto this panel, we go on the Mask tab, we click on the first frame. Make sure you're on the first frame as well, because again, if you know keyframing, whatever frame you're editing is going to be changing. So if you mask something here, then it will gradually mask, which you can do. It's useful, but it's very time consuming, depending on what you're doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in on Mr. Weasley's face. We're going to press this little pen icon here, this little anchor creation tool here. You can also press D, apparently. I don't. I don't know all the hotkeys. Oh, one thing as well, if you press Control while you're using anything but the cursor, you can go back to your cursor and drag around as fit, like this. Otherwise, you have to click back and do it that way. So I like to press Control. This is just scrolling. Now what we'll do is, like in Photoshop, we are just going to mask around his face. So we're just going to click. I'm going to do this very rushed, very quick, just to show you how it's done. But I'm just going to click around his head. And you can do this as carefully or as fast as you want. Now what happened there is if you exit the anchor point and start moving, it will basically refresh the anchor, so you can have multiple masks. So usually to do that, I just Control Z until I can see this is lit up again. Obviously Control Z undo. So I'm going to keep masking around this man. Again, dragging, zooming in, dragging, undo to get my thingies back. Going to progress. So this is how I do things. Obviously there's different ways that people can do masking and all these different things, but this is just the way that I do it, and it's the way I always have. Like, this is how I used to do my old meme videos where I'd like track the heads and all that kind of thing. Basically any kind of like head tracking where I'll put someone's head where, you know, it shouldn't be. Or like replace a character. This is what I'd do if I hadn't already masked an image myself. So we've nearly got the head done. And then make sure to complete your mask, you can see it's almost complete. You have to connect it back in on itself, and then you'll see on here on the preview it's going to get rid of the background. And now we've masked his head. Obviously there's little gaps. You can see there's just the shading's a bit off, and you can change that with the visual effects, and you can do blah blah blah. Just showing you the basics. So now that this is masked, I don't need to worry about this anymore. I'm only sticking with this head. I'm not going to do anything else with this. So I can just click back onto position. I don't have to worry about masks again. And I'm going to go to the first frame of the video. So now this is the first frame. I'm going to see that Bowser's facing right. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to press flip horizontal. So it's going to flip him. Then I'm going to resize it. So this is making it smaller. And then I'll drag it over his head. And just like that, Bowser is now Ron Weasley. And that's how it works. If you want to be very precise with where your faces are, I usually use my arrow keys. So up is down, down is up, left is right. No, left is not right, left is left, right is right. If you do stuff inverted, it can flip, it can fuck around, but that's something you just practice with. And I'll show you the way that I keyframe things. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to press this little button here, and this is going to advance one frame at a time on this video. So I'm just going to make sure it counts the frame. Yep, counts the frame. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we've got 10 frames. Now I'm going to match it in here. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 10 frames. So now if I were to, say, slightly move this head, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to move it down to the left a little bit. You should now see the first 10 frames of this, his head will slightly move. This is because it's matching these 10 frames. Obviously his head is just shrinking. And that's basically the basics of keyframing. So I'll go to here, I'll split this as if it never existed. Go to here, and we can see his head is actually moving to the right here. So it's actually, well, his right. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to open this again. I'm going to go to the first frame. And I'm going to press this button. And I'm going to see that nothing has changed yet. Because some videos are 30 FPS, some are 60, some are even more somehow. Yeah. Sometimes there aren't any frames in between, so it'll just be the same picture twice. So what I'll do is, so first frame, nothing's changed. So I'm going to click on this first frame, and I'm just going to double click. So that's going to just copy this frame. And click again, and I can see it's moved a little bit. So now I'm going to click on the third frame, and I'm going to move it slightly. I'm going to go forward again. That frame's not changed. I'm looking at here. Click again. That frame has changed. He's moved to the right. So I'm going to, well, his right. So I'm going to move Ron as well. So there's no difference there. Moved a bit on that one. So we'll do it like this. And you basically just do this over and over and over again to match your frames. Obviously, you can use this in like a variety of different means. You don't have to do it for like masking heads and fucking about. But this technique is just useful in general for whatever projects you have. Obviously, because this is animation, depending on how smooth and how many frames you decide to put in, and obviously the quality of your PNGs as well, it will greatly change how things can look. Obviously, you can get a really professional look, but obviously for my old stuff, it's very memey. So this is what I did. See, Bowser is slowing down a bit. Usually it's one still frame and then one movement frame. One still, one movement, one still, one movement. I think that's usually 30 FPS. I'm not sure. So yeah, you can see there, got a little movement here. So if I play this back, you should see that Ron's head will move. Just like that. And that's how it's done. Obviously very crude, very not as good as it could be. But again, showing you the basics. Obviously you can move his head up, you could do all sorts, you could rotate his head if you want to. Obviously depending on where his head is, you could like turn it to different values and do all kind of things. But yeah, that's the basics of keyframing. And with this, I hope you make some incredible memes, or just good content in general, or whatever you want. Or maybe you won't use it at all. Who knows? But that's keyframing, the very basics of what you can do in terms of moving heads and moving images. Let me know what you'd like to see next. So thank you so much for supporting me and my videos, supporting with Patreon, and yeah, I hope you're looking forward to more content, more tutorials, all kinds of things. But yes, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.